Welcome back, Knuckleheads. I'm Lupinefiasco. This is Daily FaB gameplay, and today we are playing Kayo, Armed and Dangerous. For anyone who's new to the channel, welcome to the jungle. What we do here is review replays of games I played on the Talishar.net client days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my play. I will talk through turn cycles as if I were taking them now, walking you through my thought process for the line I would take, and compare that to the line I did take at the time of recording. We either learn from my mistakes or reinforce good play patterns, with the overall goal of tightening and optimizing our gameplay in the future to take down paper events and walk away with that shiny cardboard. If you'd like to check out the deck I'm playing here or try it for yourself on Talishar, there is a FaB deck link in the video description below. While you're down there, if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. It is the best free way to support me and to make sure that you see every new episode of Daily FaB gameplay in your YouTube feed. I also have a Discord, a Blue Sky, and a Patreon, links to which are found in the video description. A Patreon sub at the Arc Lightning tier or higher will get you access to the matchup guide for this deck and for every one of my decks forever. Without further ado, let's jump right into the action. Playing into Boltyn means that we have to be a little more cautious about blocking with attack actions from hand because Boltyn charging gives his attacks +1 power. If we block with an attack action, which our deck is mostly full of, aside from 3 copies of Bloodrush Bellow. So in general, we're not going to block. I mean, that sort of fits our normal game plan of not wanting to block anyway and just convert large hands of cards. Boltyn can compete with us on armor. He can also compete with the power of blocking from hand, although he has more blocking cards than we do. We have a bunch of non-block attack actions. But in any case, this is a race. Be careful using your Scowling Fleshbag when Boltyn puts down the Spirit of Irina, which is going to let him play Lumina Ascension at instant speed. If Boltyn's holding a card and attacks with the Raiden and you think it might be a Lumina, it's possible that you just don't have any choice but to play around it. Depending on Boltyn's Beacon of Victory count, he might want to react to find the Lumina Ascension to play in the reaction step, and if that's the case, you can Fleshbag it away. It's just something to be aware of. Don't really count on the Fleshbag doing the thing you want it to do if Spirit of Irina is down. When queuing into a random Boltyn, really just board for Raiden. If they're on Sabers, we kind of just lose the game no matter what. So seeing Raiden here is actually really good for us. We won the die roll and we chose to go second. Unfortunately, our hand really doesn't block well. So the fact that this Beaming Bravado is the first attack that Boltyn is playing means that it attacks for 4. Getting +1 power from its charge ability. So we are going to block with these 2 blue cards in hand. Giving the Bravado +1. This is kind of just what we have to do. We're not going to take damage from this. We are going to put Boltyn in the position to decide how he wants to address this. If he wants to banish a card from Soul in order to give the Bravado go again, then we can decide what we want to do with that. If it's just Raiden for 3, I'm probably taking that. We do get the Boltyn activation to give Bravado go again. We'll see what the follow-up to this is. But, of course, our hand doesn't block, so we've got a Light the Way coming for 3. If this hits, it gets go again. So the only way to stop this from hitting is to use our armor, which is something I hate doing on turn 0, but here's the thing. If the Light the Way hits and gets go again, then Boltyn gets to follow up with Raiden for 3. So although I hate giving 4 points of block from armor into this Light the Way, by doing so I'm actually preventing 6 points of damage. This is just really bad luck that we have 2 cards in hand that don't block, and that Boltyn really put us on not being able to block from hand. If we had 2 more blocking cards there, I would 100% just fire it off, use the entire hand for defense, but we do need to give armor here. Very easy play. It's going to be Wild Ride, pitching Riled Up, hoping to draw into a blue that is going to let us send Mandible Claw into a 2 for 6. Unfortunately, we discard a yellow and draw into a red. So we have a decision to make. Are we going to Mandible Claw pitching Pack Hunt and then Arsenal Swing Big, or are we just going to send Swing Big? I really think we're just sending Swing Big. Boltyn having the Soul of Irina, Spirit of Irina here is just terrible for us. Even getting a point of damage prevention off the Soul Bond Resolve. I mean, the Spirit doesn't really... It does not affect any play that Boltyn makes that isn't Lumina Ascension, but because that Spirit is so strong in playing around Fleshbag, it just says that we're already losing value from Fleshbag on turn 1, and that's just pure luck that Boltyn happened to draw into it, rather than needing to tutor it out with Beacon of Victory, or just not seeing the card. We're going to give Boltyn Swing Big here. He can block it with 2-3 blocks from hand, and any of his armor, probably Iron Song Versus, is the easiest block for him to make. He gets a Quicken, but I don't really care about that. If Boltyn gives me 2 cards, it means that he has 1 attack and then charges, and sure, that attack gets go again, and there's a Raiden follow-up, but if Boltyn's going to 2-card 6 or 7 me, that's totally fine. And if Boltyn takes damage from the Swing Big, then that's even better. I'm getting ahead on life total in the race. We set up our Might. We're going to draw back into 4 cards and see what we can do with our next hand, if we care about blocking at all, or if we really don't. So yeah, this is not great, as you can understand. Depending on what Boltyn wants to do with this, we have a few options. So we've got an Engulfing Light currently coming for 3. On hit says that the Engulfing Light goes into Boltyn's Soul. If we block this, then Boltyn can banish a card from Soul, give the Engulfing Light go again, and either play the card from hand or swing with Raiden. My block would be E-Strike and Scabskin Leathers, and then my turn would be play Command and Conquer for 8, Arsenal Pulping, and that's not a bad line. Alternatively, what we can do is just take 3 here, not give Boltyn the ability to give Engulfing Light go again, and then on our turn send a 4-card 12 with E-Strike, Bottoming Pulping, and then play Command and Conquer, pitching Bear Fangs. And I think that's better. It does less setup, but it does not play into what Boltyn wants to do, which is deal damage even though we're blocking, get cards from us on defense, and then still be able to attack with the Raiden. There is an argument to blocking the Engulfing Light to deny Boltyn the Soul, and if he then banishes to give Raiden give the Engulfing Light go again, then he goes down to 1 card in Soul, and if we can maybe try to starve Boltyn out of Soul, maybe we can get something going, or strand him with a hand that doesn't convert very well. But I still just think that sending the 4-card 12 with Disruption tied to the CNC is fine. Boltyn's race is not going well, right? He just did a 2-card 3, and we are forcing him to care about this arsenal. He could block with equipment here, but there's a decent chance that he doesn't want to use the boots yet. If he loses the first 2 points of block on Soul Bond Resolve, then he loses the ability to block with it later and get free damage prevention. So if we just get cards from Boltyn, we are ultimately slowing him down. We're finding our answers. We're finding our Bear Fangs that are going to give us go again, or Blood Rush Bellows that are going to let us convert small hands into a lot of damage. So I think this is still fine. We're very far ahead on life total right now. Our armor is still in fairly good condition. I'm just not really nervous about anything that Boltyn is trying to do. And here we draw into an interesting hand in that it is very clunky. We could play Blood Rush Bellow, pitching Agile Windup, and that's the obvious play, but we have 1 floating resource. There's a chance that we discard our Wild Ride. The Command and Conquer is not a root attack and would not get +2 power. But we also can't really set up here. We could block Light the Way with Command and Conquer and even Apex Bonebreaker if we wanted to prevent the on-hit, though Boltyn would get to banish and give it go again. We could block with Command and Conquer and not Bonebreaker and just let Boltyn get go again, keep a card in Soul, and then come into the Raiden, send 5 damage overall. But the problem with that is, then what? We have this Agile Windup. We can't play the Wild Ride without risking discarding Blood Rush Bellow, which I don't want to do. And if we did something like play Command and Conquer, pitch Blood Rush Bellow, discard Agile Windup, we make Might and Agility, Arsenal the Wild Ride, but then we didn't play a Blood Rush Bellow. That said, I do think it's our best line. Having a go again attack in Arsenal and an Agility on the board means that we can do a smaller Savage Sash. You want to try to line your Savage Sash up with Blood Rush Bellow and go again in Arsenal, but Go again in Arsenal, and Agility means that you get to do something like pitch blue, play Bare Fangs for 1, play Wild Ride from Arsenal, attack with Mandible Claw, send a finisher. You can easily go 4 links wide with Agility on the board. Go again in Arsenal and Savage Sass and show that's what I think I'm going to do. We'll take 7 points of damage here between Light the Way hitting and the Raiden follow-up, assuming that Boltyn doesn't have something in Arsenal to weave in here. Then on our turn, we're going to send what is effectively a 3-card 8. If I'm valuing Might and Agility at 1 point each, which I do. Let me know in the comments how you value Go Again. Personally, I value it at 1 point of damage. I know that if you are able to convert a 4-card hand that you otherwise wouldn't be able to, then you could call it more. But just on its face, I call Go Again 1. So the 3-card 8 here isn't great. We do threaten Boltyn's Arsenal again, potentially depending on what he does with this Raiden. We've got Illumina Ascension coming down, which is going to make this Raiden 4. Boltyn will banish a card from Soul, attack with Raiden again, which will let it come in for another 4, gaining 2 life because we're not blocking this. And now Command and Conquer just doesn't really do anything, but we still need to play it. It is more value to attack with the Command and Conquer than what our alternate line would be, which is attack with Mandible Claw, pitch Blood Rush Bellow, discard an Agile Windup to set up. And that's a 2-card 6, which I suppose actually is better than a 3-card 8. If we block this Raiden with Command and Conquer and Apex Bonebreaker, we not only prevent 4 points of damage, but we prevent Boltyn from gaining 1 point of life, and we make a Might, which then says our Mandible Claw comes in for 4, and then make our Might Agility with Windup. So actually, if we're just looking at raw numbers, that is a better line, and we even prevent extra damage, quote-unquote damage value, by preventing Boltyn from gaining the life and from getting a soul. So actually, that would have been the right play. Using Bonebreaker and Command and Conquer to block the Raiden. Raiden goes up to 5 because we're blocking with an attack action, but we are covering 5 and we make that Might. So very interesting there. Not something I would have caught the first time, and really not even something that is objectively correct. This is not... There is an argument here that this line of CNC into discard windup is just better, but if we are looking at raw value, then we do lose points by taking this play as opposed to if we had blocked with the CNC. Really interesting there, not something that I would have caught the first time. As it is, we are extracting some value from our Command and Conquer here and getting at least 1 card from Boltyn on defense. Not that I think this is necessarily a win, it just means that he couldn't reasonably attack with that card, could not get more offensive value from it, Engulfing Light, than defensive value. But it does still take Boltyn down on cards in hand and gives us some space to set up what is very likely to be a nice turn. Unfortunately, we don't draw into a blue, which would have been really helpful, but not only do we have yellows with which to pay for our turn, we have a red Bare Fangs, which has the potential to deal a lot of damage while also setting us up to either pay for Mandible Claws if we wanted to, or just follow up with another Go Again attack from hand. If we could rip a blue off the top of our deck, we would really be crushing here because we get to send Bare Fangs, Pulping, Mandible Claw, Wild Ride from Arsenal, maybe another card depending on what we draw. But it means that we don't want to block here. At the same time, it means that we don't want to die here. So we're in a weird spot where maybe we want to think about flashbacking, and we can think about flashbacking because we have the send packing. So if we were to attack with Bare Fangs, pitching Wild Ride, and then we drew a blue off the top of our deck and discarded this Pulping, now we're looking at a situation where we could attack with Mandible Claw and then attack with Send Packing and force Boltyn to defend the Arsenal. And if we use our Scowling Fleshbag, then we force Boltyn to have an Arsenal. And I think that is the play I would make here. Let's use our Fleshbag, just make sure that we don't take too much damage from this turn. The one out that Boltyn has is if this card in hand is Illumina Ascension. So we've already seen the one. It's possible that there's another one in hand, but I do think that We could have fleshbagged on that first attack, and then we prevent this from happening. We'll see what the follow-up is here. Beacon of Courage, Bolt of Courage, which draws a card on hit. We are going to cover this up with armor, but this is a situation where if we had played with that fleshbag and said, let's just, really play into our mega turn here, which is Bare Fangs into Mandible Claw into Send a Packing, then we can really get Boltyn. We draw and discard a Bloodrush Bellow, which is why I will never play Kayo in a Tier 3 or Tier 4 event, because no matter how much setup you have, your deck can just screw you, and that is not what I want on a hero when I am competing at a Pro Tour, a national tournament, or, fingers crossed, Worlds. So this doesn't ruin our turn. We do have a Wild Ride in Arsenal that we can follow up with. Notably, we have not discarded a card with power 6 or greater, so our Mandible Claw does not currently have Go Again. We will very likely have the same turn. We should Pulping first. I don't know that this particularly matters. We could Wild Ride first, because if we Wild Ride from Arsenal and then discard our Pulping, it's not a huge deal. This does have the benefit of potentially drawing a blue, which would let us Mandible Claw into Wild Ride. As it is, we've already made our Might token this turn, so if we pitch Wild Ride and attack with Wild Ride from Arsenal, then it's 6 points of damage compared to 3 points of damage from Mandible Claw, but we not only lose our Arsenal, we lose Go Again. So I actually do like attacking with Mandible Claw here as the follow-up. It's really terrible. The more I play Kayo now, the more I remember problems I had with the deck previously. And this is a spot where you could make the argument that, wow, Kayo has this insane value and you can go 17 or 18 damage off of a 4-card hand with 0 setup. Aurora can do that too, without your deck just screwing you on the draw discard, so still fine. We're still in an okay spot in this game. This is a situation where I want a Scowling Fleshbag and just allow myself to get got by Lumina Ascension, but if Boltyn does not have the Lumina Ascension, then we are in a fine position. Our hand is pretty good. We have this Wild Ride in Arsenal, we have a Pulping in hand, so I can lead with the Pulping, especially now knowing that Boltyn will not have a defense reaction in Arsenal. Pitch a blue, draw a discard, hopefully discard whatever comes off the top of my deck. My ideal turn here is Pulping Wild Ride Bare Fangs, which just sends an absurd amount of damage. But we are just at Boltyn's mercy here, and this is where he really gets to catch up from this play. I don't think that blocking with a Fleshbag here was wrong. It was just unlucky that Boltyn happened to have the out. Drawing into a Beast Within, discarding our Bare Fangs, really unfortunate stuff. Although here we do get a follow-up of playing Wild Ride and pitching our Assault and Battery, hoping that we discard this Beast Within. If we could, I don't know what our best outcome is here. We would have 2 resources floating. I guess just a Swing Big and either another blue or a yellow would let us Mandible Claw after the Wild Ride and then play whatever the finisher is. But it could be any 2 for 6. I'm really just hoping for a blue or a yellow and a 2 for 6. If nothing else, we're forcing Boltyn to block this turn. What is fortunate for us in this spot is he hasn't used any of his armor yet, so if we can produce a decent amount of damage, we might be able to threaten lethal where Boltyn has not extracted full value from his armor. So let's say, for example, that Boltyn is at 17 here, having already blocked with all of his armor once. He would be effectively at 2 more health. Now Boltyn is at an effective 13, 7 plus his 6 points of armor compared to what we would have had, which is him being at 13 and then actually 15. So he is effectively at 2 less life than he should be, which is helpful for us because now we get the chance to kill him. This is an interesting follow-up to Wild Ride. We can either we could Mandible Claw, which is objectively wrong. We could Wild Ride for 6, which is not lethal. And the reason it isn't lethal is that Boltyn has the ability to block 4 with armor. So if we Wild Ride for 6, Boltyn blocks 4 with his armor, we put him to 1. Boltyn has 3 cards to kill us, and we're only effectively at 6 with our single point of armor left on Bonebreaker. If we play Bare Fangs and we don't draw discard our last copy of Bloodrush Bellow, then we threaten Boltyn with 8. And now with 8, Boltyn has to give us a card from his hand, which is what we want. The downside of each of those lines is if we were to Wild Ride and then rip a yellow or blue off the top of our deck and keep it, we get to Mandible Claw for 3, which ends up being a higher value line. We get 9 points of damage out of these 2 cards, whereas if we Bare Fangs, rip a yellow, and discard our Wild Ride, then not only do we only get 8 points of damage, but we have to arsenal a bad card. If we Bare Fangs and discard whatever we draw off the top of our deck, then Wild Ride goes into our arsenal and we're the greatest Flesh and Blood players. So the upside of playing Wild Ride is that we have the potential to threaten lethal as a follow-up and get more damage out of it, and if we instead keep our Bare Fangs, we get to arsenal a Bare Fangs, which is great. The downside of playing Wild Ride is if we keep our Bare Fangs, we are not threatening lethal with these 2 cards, and we're allowing Boltyn to keep 3 cards in hand, which I don't want to do. So the follow-up here is Bare Fangs. Now keep in mind, if Boltyn is at 7 here, because he's blocked with his armor already, then, yeah, technically he does still need to give us a card, but it's much less threatening to him than this line, which puts Boltyn into a worse spot. We discard a blue. So if we had had the Agile Wanda, we just discard it and make an Agility and pass. But we get to keep a Wild Ride, and Boltyn is going to give us all 3 cards left in his hand. This is actually insane for us, and we probably just win the game, especially because we've just drawn our 3rd copy of Bloodrush Bellow. So easiest Bloodrush Bellow of my life. We discard a Send Packing, which is fine. We draw into 2 more blues, which is a little unfortunate. At the same time, Boltyn is at 3, effectively at 8 with his armor. We just need to deal 9 points of damage, and because we have no more misses in our deck, we get to open with Wild Ride, which gives us the highest chance of drawing a red off the top of our deck and then keeping it. Drawing into Send Packing instead, that's still fine. We've got Wild Ride coming in for 9. We get to Mandible Claw as a follow-up, and then depending on what is left in Boltyn's hand, we either Send Packing, which is worth 1 more point of damage than Smash Instinct, or we Smash Instinct, which intimidates away the last card in Boltyn's hand. So the follow-up to this Wild Ride is going to be Mandible Claw, pitching Mighty Wind-Up. Claw comes in for 5 with Go again. And then depending on Boltyn's hand situation, we either pitch Smash Instinct to Send Packing, which attacks for 8 under Bloodrush Bellow, or we pitch Send Packing to attack with Smash Instinct, which attacks for 7, but intimidates away a card from Boltyn's hand. If Boltyn still has a card left to block with, and isn't just already dead, which there is a very good chance of happening, then the Smash Instinct is higher value. It comes in for 7 after intimidating away Boltyn's last card, as opposed to Send Packing, which comes in for 8, but gets blocked for either 2, 3, or 4, any of those making Send Packing come for less value overall. Like I said, this really doesn't matter. Boltyn can cover this with armor. Instead, covering with a 2 block and 2 points of armor, going down to 2, and then either way, just ends the game. And if Boltyn has the extra armor value from having already blocked, I think he's still dead, but it does lead to a little more of an interesting decision. So we get there. Our average value per turn is still insane, 17.33 compared to Boltyn's 15.6, but gotta tell you, losing that Bloodrush Bellow to the Bare Fangs that I, 1, did not know was on top of my deck, and 2, had a 33% chance to discard and a 66% chance to keep, is why I don't play Kayo, aside from on Talishar for daily FaB gameplay, where we're just updating the list, making sure that we're keeping up to date with the hunted meta For people who do want to play the deck, I think the deck has legs. It can obviously deal insane amounts of value per turn, and even more points of value when your flesh bag actually does the thing that you want it to do, which against most aggro decks it does. But I gotta tell you, that variance feels really, really bad. I hope it doesn't feel bad for you. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something. If so, be sure to savage smash that like button. My comments are always open for any questions or feedback. If you have not already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It's free. It helps me out a lot. I have a Blue Sky, a Discord, and a Patreon, links to which are in the video description below. I will be back soon with more daily FaB gameplay. And until the next time I see you, take care.